Good morning. I am Guruswami K, Head of the Department of Physics, IDSC Government College, Chikmagalur. In this video, I am going to discuss the fourth lecture on X radiations. This chapter comes under the program 3rd BSc Physics, Semester 6, Paper 7. The title of the paper is Solid State Physics and Electronics. In this lecture, we have to discuss the topics like Compton scattering, comparison between Compton scattering and Raman scattering, and lastly, X-ray scattering or diffraction, Lewis work. These topics should be covered in this lecture. Recap of previous session. The previous lecture, we discussed about Moseley's law, its statement, explanation, and significance of Moseley's law and applications of Moseley's law were discussed in the previous discussion. Learning objectives of this session. The students can able to study the concept of Compton effect or Compton scattering, to compare Compton and Raman scattering, and lastly to study Lewis X-ray diffraction. The experimental study of X-ray diffraction should be covered in this lecture. X-ray scattering. What is meant by scattering? If X-ray photon, if it is interact with the atoms of a media, if it is deviates from its incident direction, then we say that X-ray is scattered. That effect is what we call scattering. Sometimes not deviation can offered by the X radiation. Okay, based on that, whether the incident X-ray, if it is deviates from its incident direction or it's proceeding in the same direction, later we are going to classify the scattering into two types. One is elastic scattering, other one is inelastic scattering. Elastic scattering is also called as coherent scattering. Inelastic scattering is also called as incoherent scattering. So in the case of coherent scattering, we found that the energy or wavelength or frequency of the incident photon is same as that of the energy, wavelength and frequency of the scattered photon. That type of scattering is what we call coherent scattering. Incoherent scattering means we found that after scattering, the energy, wavelength and as well as frequency of the scattered photon is different as that of the parent one or incident one. Now we are going to discuss the types of scattering. If X-rays are incident on a matter, it is scattered by its set of atoms in all directions. There are two types of X-ray scattering. First one is Rayleigh scattering or Thomson scattering, and second one is Compton scattering or incoherent scattering. Okay, Rayleigh scattering or Thomson scattering is a coherent scattering. Compton scattering is incoherent scattering. Compton scattering. Now we have to know what is Compton effect or Compton scattering. Compton discovered that when X-rays of a sharply defined frequency were incident on a material of low atomic number like carbon, they suffered a change of frequency or wavelength on scattering. The scattered beam contains two wavelengths. That is, in addition to the incident wavelength, there is a wavelength of there is a higher wavelength. There is a higher wavelength, that is or longer wavelength as compared to that of the incident one or parent one. Okay, that type of incoherent scattering is what we call Compton scattering or Compton effect. Compton scattering or Compton effect. Okay, the scientist Compton, he treated this scattering experiment is a direct interaction between the particle interaction between a light photon and an electron. Okay, Compton scattering is a direct interaction between a photon and electron, and here we found that this incident photon, okay, may lose part of its energy during scattering, thereby Here, the scattered photon may have the wavelength which is greater than the incident one. This effect was explained by the scientist Compton on the basis of quantum theory of radiation. Okay, the scientist Compton used Planck's quantum theory of radiation to explain this scattering effect between, observed between an electron of an atomic target and a photon. And again, here the scientist Compton, he used the law of conservation of energy and conservation of momentum to discuss the interaction between a photon, X-ray photon, and an electron. And he developed a mathematical theory to determine the change in wavelength during scattering. That is, the wavelength of the scattered X-ray photon minus the wavelength of the incident photon. That gives the change in wavelength. It will be called as delta lambda. And that should be is equal to h by m naught c into 1 minus cos theta. Okay. The derivation is done by using the law of conservation of energy and law of conservation of mass. Law of conservation of momentum. The scientist Arthur H. Compton observed the scattering of X-rays from electrons in a carbon target. He found that scattered X-rays having a longer wavelength than those incident upon the target. Why these scattered wavelength, these photons have longer wavelength? Because during this interaction, some energy loss takes place. The incident photon loses parts of its energy, and that energy is gained by an electron. Thereby, electron recoils and moving with certain velocity or kinetic energy. That kinetic energy is half m squared. Whatever the kinetic energy gained by the electron, that is the energy lost by the incident photon. Thereby, if the energy is lost, obviously frequency will be decreased, whereas wavelength will be increased. Thereby, that increasing wavelength, it will be taken as lambda f, and the incident wavelength, it will be taken as lambda I, the incident wavelength or initial wavelength. The difference between those two is what we call increase in wavelength, or say Compton shift. Compton shift. We can show that at Compton shift, delta lambda is equal to h by m naught c into 1 minus cos theta. Again, now to explain this Compton scattering, the scientist Compton using the principle of the conservation of energy and momentum. Okay, that is the main principles used to deduce the relation for Compton shift, that is delta lambda. Now we are going to discuss the special cases. Okay, the wavelength associated with the scattering angle according to the Compton formula is this one. Different cases. Now, case 1. No scattering. It means when the scattering angle of photon theta equal to 0, then cos theta is equal to 1, and hence delta lambda is equal to 0. If cos theta is equal to 1, then 1 minus 1 equal to 0. The above expression, thereby h by m naught c into 0 is 0. So there is no increase in wavelength or shift can absorb, no scattering. That is, the wavelength of the scattered photon is same as the wavelength of the incident one. In that case, we say that there is no scattering, or it may also called as covariant scattering. Next, Compton scattering. When theta is equal to 90 degree, cos 90 value is 0, and hence the above expression, that is Compton shift expression, we found that delta lambda is equal to h by m naught c. Now, if we substitute the values of h, m naught and c, okay, we have the Compton wavelength that is equal to 0.00243 nanometer. Here we know that values of h, m naught, c. H is 6.625 in 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second. M naught is rest mass of electron, that is 9.1 in 10 to the power of minus 31 kg, and c is the speed of light in free space or air, and that c is equal to 3 in 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. If we substitute all these in delta lambda expression and simplifying, we get a value like 0.00243 nanometer, and this wavelength is what we call Compton wavelength. Head-on collision. The third case is head-on collision. When theta is equal to 180 degree, cos 180 value is minus 1. We substitute that in the above expression for delta lambda, we get delta lambda equal to 2h by m naught c, that is twice the Compton wavelength. Then we get the value of 0.00486 nanometer. Okay, this type of collision or scattering is what we call head-on collision. Nothing but here the incident photon may retrace its path after scattering. So that is theta is equal to 180 degree. The possible case of Compton scattering or Compton effect. Next, comparison between Compton scattering and Raman scattering. In the previous semester, in the 5th semester, atomic spectra concept, we came across Raman scattering. It is molecular spectra. There we discussed Raman spectra, Raman scattering or Raman effect. So we are familiar with this Raman scattering now. Now just we are discussing Compton scattering. Now we are going to compare these two. Again, we know that both are incoherent scattering. In the case of Raman scattering also, the scattered photon may have the wavelength that is different from that of the incident one or parent one. So first we have to discuss in brief about Compton scattering and Raman scattering. Next, I am going to give a table. There we are going to give the comparisons between Compton scattering and Raman scattering, or Compton effect and Raman effect. Compton scattering. It is also an inelastic scattering. It is also an inelastic scattering of a photon from a free charged particle. If the charged particle is a bound electron, then the energy of the photon must be much greater than the binding energy of the electron. Then scattered photon always have longer wavelength than the incident photon wavelength. Generally high energy, that is few million electron volt, incident photons undergo Compton scattering. Thereby Compton scattering is a high energy phenomenon. Raman scattering. Raman scattering is an inelastic scattering of photons from molecules. Usually in inorganic solvents we observe this Raman effect or Raman scattering. So it's a molecular phenomena. Raman scattering is a molecular phenomena. The photon interacts with the molecule and changes the molecule's vibrational, rotational and electronic energy. Scattered photon can have either same or longer or shorter wavelength than the incident photon wavelength. In the previous type, scattered photon may have the wavelength which is equal to or greater than the incident one. If it is a Compton scattering, high energy scattering, obviously the wavelength of the incident photon should be greater as compared to the wavelength of the incident one. But in the case of Raman scattering, in addition to the incident wavelength, there is the wavelength in longer wavelength region and also in the shorter wavelength region for the scattered radiation. Thereby this type of interaction is also incoherent scattering or elastic scattering. The scientist Raman got Nobel Prize because of explaining the existence of this the wavelength in the case of shorter wavelength region after scattering. So this is what the comparison between Compton scattering and Raman scattering. And generally this Raman scattering is observed in the low energy cases, that is few electron volt incident photons undergo Raman scattering. Thereby Raman scattering is also called as low energy phenomena and Compton scattering is called as high energy phenomena. These are the comparisons between Compton effect and Raman effect. Now I am going to give this comparison in a tabular form. In the first table, I am going to give the points connected with Compton effect. The second table, points connected with Raman effect. First one. In Compton effect, scattered radiation have wavelength greater than the incident one. In Compton effect, scattered radiation have wavelength greater than incident one. Whereas in Raman effect, scattered radiation are found to have longer and shorter wavelengths apart from the incident one. The second comparison, the Compton lines are not polarized, whereas the Raman lines are polarized. Compton lines are not polarized, the Raman lines are polarized. Third point is, it is incoherent scattering. Raman effect is also incoherent scattering. Both are incoherent scattering. It is a scattering of electromagnetic radiation from free electrons. Compton effect is the scattering of electromagnetic radiation from free electrons, whereas Raman scattering is a molecular phenomena. Okay, nothing but the photon scattered with molecules of the media. It is observed in invisible region, Compton effect. Raman effect is also observed in invisible region. It does not have characteristic lines like Stokes lines and anti-Stokes lines in Raman spectra. Whereas here, in the case of Raman spectra, wavelengths scattered have Stokes lines and anti-Stokes lines. These are the major comparisons between Compton scattering and Raman scattering, or Compton effect and Raman effect. Now we are going to discuss X-ray scattering or diffraction, that is Lewis work. The wavelengths of X-rays are of the same order of magnitude as the dimension of an atom. Okay, in order to explain the X-ray diffraction, we have to observe the diffraction of X-rays, okay, or X-rays effect, diffraction effect. Here, there is a condition, that is, the wavelength of X-rays are of the same order of magnitude as the dimension of an atom. Because in optics, we know that the diffracting effect should be observed in the case of an ordinary light only when, if the size of the obstacle or aperture, if it is comparable with the wavelength of the incident radiation. So in the case of optics, we are going to use a plane transmission grating to study the diffraction effect. But here, in X-ray diffraction, the wavelength of the X-rays ranges from 0.01 angstrom to 10 angstrom, very small wavelength range. So our ordinary obstacles or apertures used in optics lab may not produce the diffraction effects. Even though their diffraction occurs, the effect is not observable because the size of the obstacle is very much greater than the wavelength of X radiation. So the scientist Lewis, he tries to observe this diffraction effect produced by X radiations. He tried to set a grating to observe these diffraction effects. That grating is constructed by using a crystal. He knows that the interatomic separation or interplanar separation between the atomic planes in a crystal, that is in the order of 1 angstrom. That is comparable with the wavelength of X radiation. Thereby, he used the crystal planes as to construct the slit. Thereby, the separation between any two crystal planes is act as a slit. Thereby, if you take a small piece of crystal, a multiple atomic planes can obtain in that crystal. In between those atomic planes, a multiple slits were contributed. So, if you allow this X radiation to incident on at atomic planes, based on the penetrating power, these X radiations are reflected from the different atomic planes. And those reflected rays, X radiations from different atomic planes, act as a coherent source, and they superpose on one another and produce a diffraction effect. Thereby, here the crystal is used as a grating element to observe X-ray diffraction because the interplanar separation or interatomic distance is of this same order as that of the wavelength of X radiations. Now we are going to discuss in detail connected with this Lewis work. A regular array of atoms, as in a crystal, behaves much like an optical diffraction grating. When a collimated beam of X-rays is directed at the crystal surface, making an angle theta with the surface, the X-rays will interact with the electrons of the crystal lattice and will be scattered. Just like there is a relation between the slit width and wavelength of light in optical grating or plane transmission grating, there will be a similar relation between the lattice spacing of the crystal and the X-ray wavelength. Already I explained that point. Those X-ray photons which suffer Compton scattering will be lost from the beam, and those suffering Rayleigh scattering will contribute to diffraction. This point is very important point. Once again I am going to repeat this point. Those X-ray photons which suffer Compton scattering will be lost from the beam. And those suffering Rayleigh scattering will contribute to diffraction. This diffraction pattern is observed on a photographic plate or a screen. And the Compton scattered wavelengths are leaves the crystal. Those wavelengths may not reach the photographic plate or screen. Only the radiations undergo or suffering Rayleigh scattering will contribute to diffraction effect or diffraction. The first X-ray diffraction experiment was carried out by M. Von Liu using the continuous X-ray spectrum, and the geometry is as shown in this figure. The experimental setup used by Liu. Here, in this figure, in the first figure, the X-rays are obtained from a X-ray tube that is not shown in this figure. X-ray tube or Coolidge tube. That monochromatic X-rays obtained from the Coolidge tube is made to pass through two lead slits, narrow slits, say S1 and S2. Here we are going to use the lead slits because here we found if a divergent beam of X radiations comes from the tube, those radiations are converted into a fine pencil beam. Nothing but whatever the radiations will pass through the narrow aperture or a hole in the slits, that may proceed in the same direction. The X radiations comes other than that aperture region, those are strongly absorbed by the lead slits. Thereby, by using these two lead slits, we are going to get a fine pencil beam of X radiations, and that is made to fall on zinc blende or zinc sulfide crystal. Then these X radiations are penetrating deeper into the different atomic planes of the crystal and suffering scattering or reflect from the different planes. And few X radiations undergo Compton scattering. Those X radiations are leaves the crystal. The few X-ray photons may undergo Rayleigh scattering or coherent scattering. They may proceed in the same direction, that is incident direction, with a small change in their energy or wavelength. And those radiations are scattered with different scattering angles, are diffracted with different angles of diffraction. And those diffracted beam of rays or scattered beam of X radiation, they superpose on one another to produce a diffraction effect. At center of the photographic plate or a screen, we are going to observe a central spot, a bright spot. Around that bright spot, a faint concentric circular spots were distributed, and those spots are what we call Liu spots. Here, some imaginary spots or faint spots are drawn around the central spot in the circular shape with increasing radius, concentric circular rings pattern. That is a diffraction pattern obtained by M. Von Liu in his experiment, by using this simple experiment to demonstrate the wave nature of X radiations, or X radiations are also electromagnetic in nature. Later, after discussing the experiment, we have to make the inference of these experiments or outcomes of this experiment. He obtained a picture containing a pattern of spots, each of which corresponds to coherent reflection of the X-ray beam from one set of the crystal planes. This experiment is a demonstration of the wave nature of X-rays. Liu established the relation between the occurrence of constructive interference and the distance of the atoms within a crystal, where small d is the interatomic distance and delta k is the difference between the incident and the diffracted wave vector, and m is an integer. Then the relation between these is given as d into delta k is equal to 2 pi m. D into delta k is equal to 2 pi m. The pattern of spots was a characteristic of the crystal structure of the material being examined. The nature of pattern obtained, diffraction pattern obtained, Liu spots obtained depends upon the nature of the crystal used. The different crystals give different Liu spots or X-ray diffraction pattern. The symmetry pattern of reflections on the photographic plate make it possible to deduce whether cubic, hexagonal or other crystal structures exist in the sample. Just by observing the diffraction pattern obtained by the Lewis experiment, we are going to decide whether the crystal used for studying X-ray diffraction, Lewis X-ray diffraction, okay, whether it is a cubic crystal or hexagonal crystal, or rhombohedral crystal or trigonal crystal, and etc. Thank you.